All right, Cardinal Nation, we got a schedule for this year. Colin and I are back. We're going to give our way too early 2025 season prediction. Colin, you ready to roll?
Pumped. I'm pumped.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. The schedule's here. It's finally arrived.
Let's
We're
sure.
talking Ball State, Don Shondell and Ray McCallum talking Ball State, Nate Davis and Bonzi Wells, Schumann, Bell Tower and Worthen, Fans Oliver from Muncie to Berlin, getting Concannons, Carters and Greeks.
All right. As many of you has probably seen, we have an official 2025 schedule for Ball State football. We've seen a lot of the games already. We knew what they were going to be for the most part, but now we have the actual schedule out. Colin, I know is a big Ball State football fan. You got to be pumped about that. Before we look at this year, though, because this kind of show idea of this really early, as it's March right now, really early season preview, was kind of your idea, something you've been doing for a few years now. You had a pretty good record last year in 2024. So before we dive into 2025, tell the people from Ball State of the Union about your prediction from last year and how you did.
Yeah, definitely. So last year I had us going, I believe, 6-6. We ended up going, was it 3-9? So, oh wait, 4-8.
Yeah, Missouri State.
Oh, let me walk it. Let's walk it through. Let's go through it so we can remind
right here.
ourselves and the viewers. So Missouri State, we won. I was right on the money with that. Miami, that was a terrible game. I think Miami had something like 750 yards from scrimmage, put up like 60 something points on us. You were there, if you remember correctly, right?
Yeah, I was there. Like me and Chris Radican were talking when we had him on. I was there. There was like a 3-hour rain delay. It was horrible. But yeah, we got smoked. Obviously, didn't know how good Cam Ward really was at that point. Obviously, ended up being pretty damn good. Could be the number one pick in the draft. But yeah, that game sucked. But it's always fun to go when we play these big non-conference games. Hopefully, we'll get a nice win at one of them at some point, and I'll be there. But yeah, Miami game sucked.
Definitely.
Central Michigan, yeah, it was like the most heartbreaking, one of the more heartbreaking games of the year.
Right. I believe we lost that one, correct?
Yeah, we were up by like 10 with like 2 minutes left or something crazy. It was like almost impossible to lose that game.
Yeah. Well, we can make the impossible look very possible. But
yeah,
the one thing to note from that is although I had predicted a W and we ended up losing that game, I believe we only lost by 3 points. Yeah, it was 37-34.
Yeah.
And you'll notice that as a trend here. If I picked us to win and we ended up losing that game, then generally we lost that game by 3 points, whether it went to overtime or not. We only lost those games by 3. So let's continue on. James Madison,
killed
another game. Yeah, we got smoked. Another game like Miami. Western Michigan, I had that as a W for us, and we lost by 3, 45-42.
Mm-hmm.
Kent State, that was a nail biter. It definitely shouldn't have been. And we won that.
Mm-hmm.
Vanderbilt, a loss closer than expected. I thought it was a hard-fought game.
I was at that one as well.
What was the atmosphere like there?
It was all right. They were a little bit better than I think most people usually think they're going to be, and probably the fans. It was a couple of weeks after they'd just beaten Alabama, so there's probably a little bit more juice there than normal, and it ended up being a closer game than I think the spread was like 27 or something. And I think we ended up losing by 10. So yeah, it was a little bit closer. So yeah, it was fun. Not the best atmosphere I've ever been to on a Ball State road game, but it was okay.
Okay, and then we have NIU. Which I predicted to be a W, and it was a W. That was a crazy game. Maybe our best win of the year. Absolutely wild. Miami of Ohio, I have it as a loss. I had it as a loss. It was a loss. Buffalo. This is the last one that I had as a win that we didn't end up winning.
That was a
This
bad
one went
too.
this one went to overtime. We lost 51-48. I believe they fired Mike New after this game.
Couple days
And
after,
this
yeah.
was when I had my final straw with the post game press conferences. Us not getting press conferences when they didn't have room or whatever it was. So the next two games, as you say,
that'll change this year, but not from Ball State.
Yep. Okay. Interesting. So then, Bowling Green and Ohio
back up just a little bit.
Both had it as a loss. They were both losses. So really, what I wanted to point out in this is, if I'm picking something as a W on here, we generally either win or we lose by 3.
Okay.
It's a close game. I don't just pick us to win games willy-nilly. I gotta lick my finger, put it up to the wind, feel the, where it's blowing.
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna do another top-notch job.
Okay.
Coming here shortly.
All right. So before we get into this schedule, I wanted to kind of give you my thoughts on how I'm going about picking these games. I'm solely basically picking on vibes pretty much, because vibes and history, because in this day and age in college football, especially for a group of 5 team like Ball State, it's virtually impossible to know really what you have on the team until you see them on the field playing somebody else. So until we see them play that first game, it's all just, we don't know. We have so many new players. We have now to couple on top of that, we have a new coaching staff, which we haven't had in forever. So you hope that those things are going to work out. And, people might look good in spring practice and this, that, and the other, and when they get into camp in the fall, but you really have no idea until we actually take the field and play somebody else. So I'm picking on vibes. I know you might try and kind of be a little more analytical and have a little bit more logic and reason behind it, and that's perfectly fine too. But yeah, I'm picking it solely pretty much on vibes.
Okay. Yeah. What I like to do is just look at their schedule and see where we fit into their schedule. Mm-hmm. Some teams have a bye before we play them. We'll talk about that. Some teams have just a tough slate in general going into there. Another thing I like to look at is returning production. Mm-hmm. So actually, NIU this year, if ESPN is correct, was 136 out of 136 in returning production. We were only 126. And for example, Kent State was 110. So you tell me, if you get more returning production from a team that maybe didn't get a win, or would you rather have lower production returning for a team that was quite decent? So I think that all kind of weighs, and it just kind of depends on what you think is maybe a priority.
Okay. And that's the beauty of it. We can look back next year when we do this again next year, and we can see how we did. Hopefully we'll be, wearing our MAC championship shirts and this, that, and the other, but we'll see how it goes. So without further ado, if people have not seen the schedule yet, here is where we're at this year. I'll run through it real quick, and then we'll go into all the games individually. Week 1, starting the year off at Purdue on August 30th. Week 2, at Auburn, September 6th. Week 3, first home game against New Hampshire on September 13th. Week 4, at UConn, September 20th. Then we have a bye week. Week 6, we're back at home against Ohio, first MAC game of the year, on October 4th. Week 7, at Western Michigan on October 11th. Week 8, we're playing Akron on October 18th. Week 9 at NIU, October 25th, another bye week. And then we got Kent State, week 11, November 5th. Eastern Michigan the next week on November 15th. And then we finish the year on the road at Toledo and at Miami on November 22nd and November 29th. So a couple things that I noticed about this before we dive into each game. One, the 4 non-conference games, we have 2 against Power 5 schools, and then UConn's kind of like an in-between of a Group 5 and a Power 5. They're maybe not the best of those, but that's still, I think a tough non-conference schedule. Now, there's not like a Georgia or a Miami or Tennessee or someone on there like that, we don't think, but it's not super easy. There's only really one gimme in there. And then I noticed we only had one Maction game. We only had one midweek game. The rest of our games late in the year are all on the weekend. So was there anything else? Oh, and that we play NIU that we've been told for the last couple of months that we weren't playing them again. And now we're all of a sudden playing them again. So was there anything that stood out to you about this schedule right here?
Yeah, definitely. I think you talked about a couple of them, but 2 things that stood out to me were the 7 road games compared to 5 home games. And then one thing that I think was really a mistake by the MAC conference when they put together this schedule was they don't have Ball State or UMass playing. I think the last time we played was at least 10 years ago. And I saw some UMass account saying that like we might not play them next year either. So it's just kind of weird that, I think they missed an opportunity here to have a team play another team that doesn't really get to play that often. And I would have liked it just, D.D. Snyder left and went there. I'm rooting for him. UMass in general is kind of a likable program. I'm Ball State till I die, but, I do kind of, I want them to do well in their first year. I think it only helps the MAC. Final thing I noticed though, John, real quick, to start the week, it's brutal, or to start the year, it's brutal. Mm-hmm. Purdue, obviously not a great Big Ten team, bottom dweller. Auburn last year, 5-7. Purdue only had 1 win. But these are still Big Ten teams, SEC teams. UConn had a 9-win season last year. And then when we close out the year, I think it can't get much tougher than Toledo, Miami of Ohio back-to-back. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of frustrating to see, but I don't know. We should maybe get into if you want to start here with Purdue. What's your thoughts on them?
Yep. So I'll go ahead and keep a tally of wins and losses, and then we'll go over them at the end of where we're at. So Purdue, I'm going to go ahead and say this is a loss. Like you said, not that great of a Big Ten team, but the problem with college football, like we kind of said earlier, is everything can change. You can go from worst to first in college football really easily now, I think, because there's so much opportunity for roster turnover that you can kind of do whatever. And so they're going to have a new coach coming in. They're going to have a new voice there, a guy who's winning, who was winning at UNLV. And so I assume this is a loss. Again, I'd have no idea what to expect from Coach Yurimovich and their first year and their first game. So I'm going to have this in my column as a loss. I will point out, though, however, if you'll remember back in 2011, we played another in-state Big Ten team, first game of the year. They had a new coach. It was his very first game. We had a coach. It was his very first game. Ball State won that game. We beat Indiana at Lucas Oil Stadium. It's Pete Limbo's first game. And Kevin Wilson was the coach at IU. So this is a similar scenario where we're going to play Purdue week 1. We have a new coach. They have a new coach. So if there is a chance to win, this could be a good shot, but I'm just going to go ahead and chalk this one up as a loss.
I agree, John. I think best case scenario here, probably a maybe. A close, tight, nail-biter game. We lose in a squeaker. We win in a squeaker. I would love to see us beat Purdue, though. Oh, my goodness. If we start the year with a win, I could definitely see us going to a bowl game. But I think that Purdue game is essential to that.
Yeah, and, it just stinks sometimes how schedules work out because it's like, we weren't that great last year, obviously, but Purdue was really bad last year. So it's like, if this game could have fallen 1 year earlier, it's like, dang. But, okay, I think we're both in agreement on that. So Next game, September 6th, Saturday, is going to be at Auburn. We played Auburn a couple times before. I think this is an easy loss. This is probably going to be the biggest loss of the year, I would say. Auburn's kind of like a weird SEC team where it seems like they kind of ebb and flow a lot, kind of like a little bit more extreme than LSU does. LSU kind of ebbs and flows a little bit as well, where they kind of go from the more towards the bottom of the conference up to the top. So who knows where this ebb is going to be for them, but I would just assume that the talent discrepancy is going to be too big. If we're in year 3 or 4 of Coach Yurmavich and maybe they're a down SEC team, I could see a spot where you could go in there and potentially squeak out a win. It seems like people can go in and beat Auburn, but I don't think that'll be us this year.
Agreed. I mean, I definitely, if we're gonna play SEC team, I'd like to see a team like Mississippi State. Not Auburn though. I mean, I don't think we get a win here, and I think you're right. It might be the biggest loss of the year. I don't see anything else on there that would be that.
Yeah, that would be my guess. There is one game that maybe, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. So we each are at a loss on those two. So I don't think either of those are a shocker so far. Mm-hmm. Next game, September 13th at home against New Hampshire. This is family weekend. So if anyone's interested in going to that game or looking for when family weekend is, that's going to be against New Hampshire. I believe this is an FCS opponent. I'm just going to go ahead and chalk this one up for myself as a win. The only time I can ever remember, and I'm sure someone can correct me, the only time I can ever remember us losing to an FCS team was in like 2014. We lost at home to Indiana State. I'm sure we've done it other times, but it's pretty rare. So I'm going to go ahead and say, we take our lumps, we get our good reps in, as long as there's no crazy injuries, playing these Big Ten and SEC teams. If we can come out of those two games healthy, I think we win this one handily.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. I think the team will be hungry after 2 first week losses potentially. And I think, this will be a good chance to get our first win and spark a little momentum here.
Mm-hmm. So this is, to me, the next game is Saturday, September 20th at Connecticut. This game is scary to me just because of what I've seen the last handful of years. This reminds me a lot of this James Madison game from last year. We've had a tough start of the year. We played a big-time team like Miami. We think, okay, James Madison, hopefully we can go and compete. Obviously, James Madison is a good team, and we get absolutely throttled. James Madison is a team that wants to prove that they belong in the upper echelon of these group of 5 teams, so they're going to try and put it up on everyone they can. I assume UConn, if given the chance, would do the same thing. I know we've played UConn a handful of times, and we've beaten them recently. My gut tells me this is a loss for us as well, but again, I don't really know for sure because I haven't seen anything from Coach Yurmavich yet. If we did this later in the year after we've seen a couple games, I might have a different feeling about it. But as of right now, as we're sitting here, me doing it off vibes, I'm going to chalk this one up as a loss as well.
Yeah, and I hate to agree with you 4 picks in a row because it's probably not what the viewers want to see, but I think you're right. And it's especially hard to tell what's going to happen here when the rate of change in the NCAA for every team is higher than it was the year before, and that was higher than it was the year before. So that returning production number that I spoke about earlier has consistently gone down in the last 4 years for all teams. So I think it's just interesting. That's the fun of the way too early season prediction here is we really know little to nothing. We know Kyle Kelly is going to be under center at least to start the year. Yeah, it's going to be a run-heavy offense potentially, but we don't know much else other than that. And I'm a believer in Kyle Kelly. but just not these first 4 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you're excuse me, I got a cough now. All right, so you're chalking that one up as a loss as well then.
Definitely.
All right. Ohio. Ohio's weird. So this is Saturday, October 4th. They're playing Ohio Community Day. Obviously, it's been a great team for a long time now. Great team last year. Was supposed to have a bunch of people coming back, and I think maybe still do. But then, kind of out of the blue, they lose their coach. The coach leaves and decides to take a job at Charlotte. We've seen a couple between him and the coach at Bowling Green take either like lateral moves or not like jumping up like you would think. So that's kind of concerning for MAC teams. So they're a conundrum here. I don't really know where to go with them because of the coach. If the coach hadn't left, I would chalk this up as a loss as well. I'll be generous here, though. I'll say we're going to figure out a way. We'll have taken our lumps. We'll have had a bye week under our belt now. We'll have a whole extra week to get ready. I'll say this is a win.
Agreed. Now we're 5 for 5, John. But what really puts it apart for me here is the bye week that we have perfectly timed right after the non-conference schedule. Get our guys back in order, lick our wounds, get ready for the Ohio game. And Ohio's going to come in having played some really tough games right before this. This is Ohio's 5 games before they see us. Rutgers, West Virginia, Ohio State,
Jeez.
an FCS school, and then Bowling Green. And then after us, they have a bye. So hopefully they're looking forward to that bye. And they've just went through a lot already. They've had a tough road at the beginning of the season. So this one I'm fairly confident is a W, especially after they lost their coach to Charlotte. Lateral move, like you said. I think it was Tim Albin left. Really concerning for the MAC, especially after you just win a MAC championship. But who knows? Good for us, maybe. We get our first MAC dub.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, I'll let you take the reins on this one. Western Michigan, week 7 on the road.
Western Michigan. This is a toss up for me here, John. Last year we lost, close game, 3-point loss. I picked us to win. It was at home. Now it's away. How I'm looking at this too, John, just so hopefully the viewers can have a picture here. So week 1 to week 4 is our non-conference. Bye week 5, week 6 to week 9, we have 4 conference games that we really need to win 3 of them. If we go 1-3 in the first 4, we need to go 3-1 in the next 4 because we need to go 2-2 at the end here. You guys will see what I'm saying, but I'm looking ahead a little bit and I'm trying to find where we get that 3rd win out of the 4 here. And I almost think we have a better chance of beating Western Michigan than we do NIU this year. So I'm going to be a little generous. I'm going to give us that W.
Okay, Colin's giving us the win.
And I'll be at this game too, by the way. I'll let the fans know. I'm planning on being at Purdue and at Western Michigan. What about you, John? Where
yeah,
I'm gonna. Right now?
I always go to the big non-conference games, the ones I haven't been to before. So I've already been to Purdue, so I don't think I'm going to Purdue. So I'm planning on going to Auburn, and then I'm planning on going to UConn because I can get an easy flight from where we live up to Hartford. And I'd like to go to a home game. I just don't know which one yet. I haven't looked into it too much, but those are the ones that I'm planning on going to. But Western Michigan, again, I'm just doing this on vibes and on gut. I can just see us winning this big game at home against Ohio and then going on the road and losing. So I'm going to chalk this one up as a loss for me. So we have our first disagreement on the schedule so far.
Fair enough.
Week 8, Akron, homecoming. I'm going to tell Coach U, if you're listening to this right now, you cannot lose to Akron, first of all, at all. And you can't lose to Akron on homecoming. So this has to be a win. I'm putting this as a win.
Agreed. I think I don't want to speak badly about FCS teams, But other than the FCS team and lowly Kent State, this should be the easiest W for us. I think we get 3 guaranteed: FCS, Kent State, Akron.
Yeah, I can see that. So you got this as a win.
This is a win as well.
Sorry, I'll try and edit out all these coughs if I can.
You're good, brother.
Okay. So then the biggest surprise on the schedule, and to me, what I think is the biggest game on the schedule, week 9, that would be October 25th at Northern Illinois. Now, we were led to believe that this game wasn't happening. There's this a great website and account on Twitter I like to follow called FBS Schedules. And they're usually right on it with everything. And so before this schedule was actually announced, they had all the non-conference games because they're announced years in advance. And then it had all the teams that we were going to play this year in the MAC. And Northern Illinois wasn't listed. And everyone online kind of, it seems like from both fan bases, had kind of come to the conclusion that we weren't playing it again. So it was a little bit of a shock to see when that schedule came out. So this is the toughest game for me to pick. And I'll tell you why. Because there's nothing more that I want to do than to beat these guys' ass one more time. I have no idea. I don't know if we can do it. Mike New might have just had the secret sauce to get this done. So I'll let me think here. Trying to think of what our overall record I think will be. It pains me, but I think I have to chalk this up to a loss because otherwise I think that would put us at too many wins for the year than I think we're going to have. If I'm wrong on any game on the schedule, besides, I guess, Purdue or Auburn, I hope it's Northern Illinois. I can't stand these guys. I was hoping we were going to have the Brown stock forever. So if any players are listening to this right now, use this as fuel to help you beat these guys in late October and keep the Brown stock for us forever before they tuck their tail and run away, which it doesn't seem like is going off to a great start so far for them in the Mountain West and them having to kind of settle to go to the Horizon League for all the other sports. So Battle of the Brown stock, Colin, last time, maybe ever. Where are you at?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I've got this as a loss. No team I hate in the MAC more than NIU. They clearly think they're better than everybody else. They really aren't, especially how we've dog walked them lately. Mm-hmm. So I just think, unfortunately, they got a lot of publicity last year after they beat Notre Dame. And they've used that to kind of get their name out there, recruit bigger players, move to a new conference. I think they're just on the upswing right now, unfortunately. And I think Thomas Hammock is probably bringing in some good players right now, some 4-stars actually here and there. And unfortunately, I just don't know if we have the firepower to compete. This could be one of those games, though. The 2 I'm least confident in on the whole schedule, even including the next 4 after this, the 2 games I'm least confident in on my picks are Western Michigan and NIU. Mm-hmm. So this could be a win. I pray it's a win, but you never know. These games are always nail biters.
Yeah, a lot of these MAC games are always pretty close. So I will say that I almost guarantee that it will be a close game between Ball State and Northern Illinois. I don't think we're going to get killed by them. So we both have those as losses here. Okay, so then we got another bye week, and then a little bit of an extended bye on top of that because then we play our only midweek game of the year, which is kind of nice. I'm kind of over the midweek games. I know they're a staple and kind of what people love about the MAC who aren't actual members of the MAC. They love the midweek action. Bettors love it. But other conferences have kind of tried to replicate it a little bit. I don't think it has quite the charm the MAC does, but this is our only MAC game of the or our MACtion game of the year. Wednesday, November 5th against Kent State. I think this is a win. Again, I think Coach Urimovich is going to have a handful of automatic wins, basically. Again, as long as there's not any crazy, strand of injuries or something like that, which obviously is possible. That could happen. We don't really know because it's March and these games are going to be, 10 months from now or 9 months from now. So this take could have a baby by the time this happens. So we don't even know. But I'm going to say this is a win. I assume you probably have this as a win as well.
%. This is going to be the perfect game to make an old fashioned, to grab a beer, kick your feet up, turn the TV on. Don't worry about it. You know your team's going to win. Even though last year it's kind of close, they had big play McCray. But I'm really worried about Kent State, and I mean this not as like someone looking down upon them, but as brotherly. They're a MAC brother. They're doing so terrible that we're going to get to a point that players are just not going to want to go there. You had no wins last year. They're trying to recruit some of our players. Some of our players will just leave them on read. And like the gap between Ball State and Kent State isn't that significant. So they're already in a really, really, really tough spot. If they don't get a win this year, and I pray they get a win. I want Kent State to be okay. But they continue this pattern of losing and losing and losing and losing. No one's going to want to go there. You're not going to get good recruits. You're just going to be a bottom feeder forever. And right now, I think they're in that abyss. They're the worst team in the MAC. They might be the worst team in FBS football.
Oh, for sure. No question. I guess I don't know about this year, but last year they absolutely were.
Yeah, and I just a quick thing on that. Not ESPN, I'm sorry. EA College Football 25 had Kent State ranked higher than Ball State, which is just atrocious. I can't even disgusting.
Was that before the season?
That was before the season. I mean, even during the season, brother, if we turn on the game now, Kent State's still ranked higher than us. It's really alarming. I mean, I'd ask them to do their research, but T's and P's to Kent State because, brother, it's dark over there.
Yeah. All right. Next game. Saturday, November 15th. Again, usually this would be a midweek game, but it's not. Eastern Michigan. Someone that we usually play. I don't believe we played last year, but it seems like we usually play Eastern Michigan. I'm hoping that this is one where, they can look at the schedule because they can see it at this point. They're like, okay, we're 4-5. If we want any shot at a bowl game, this is a must win. So I'm going to say Coach Urimovich and the boys, they take down Eastern Michigan this late in the year, and I have them sitting at 5-5 at this point. So they're thinking and looking at these last two games, which we'll get to after you give your thoughts on Eastern Michigan. So I like to think that they're going to get these guys amped up and say, hey, we have to go win this game if we have any chance of making a bowl. I have them winning it.
Yeah, same. This is probably after the FCS, Kent State, and Akron. This is probably our easiest opponent. Just thinking about what we might have to go up against. Ohio could possibly be terrible this year. New coach, not many returning players, but they have like a reputation of being solid. So I want to respect that. Eastern Michigan does not. They're decent, but I feel like they've been backsliding lately. I feel like they haven't been as good as they really were. Their offense doesn't really impress me. Their coach actually does a decent bit with what he's given. I think Eastern Michigan's one of the lowest funded MAC schools in terms of like how much money they bring in, how much money they're given for the football program. So respect to the coach, but I've got a W here. And I think I'm fairly confident in that as well.
Yeah, this is one that It's basically a coin flip game, I think. So I think if for some reason this game had been on the road, I probably would have had it as a loss at this point in the year. But since it's at home, I'll go ahead and give them a win. So the last two games, which I think most people noticed right off the bat, was we have a really hard last two games. At Toledo, Saturday, November 22nd at Toledo, which obviously we don't have any times for these games yet. Those will all come much later on down the road. But Toledo game, I'm going to chalk this one up as a loss. This one, aside from the Auburn game, is the one I'm the most confident that we're going to lose. It just seems like Toledo is always a really good team. They really hardly ever have downtime. And, Miami of Ohio is obviously always very good as well. And we'll get to that one in a second, but it seems like we always play them pretty close. But I just can see us getting killed in this Toledo game. So might be me. I have a little personal story. In 2014, I was a student manager for the football team. And we played at Toledo. It was a Saturday night game. And the game started, and within like 5 minutes or something really fast, it seemed like we were down 17-0. And then we proceeded to have to sit there for like 2 hours in a lightning delay and then start the game back up just to be down 17-0 still, and just had to go through the whole game knowing you're going to lose, and then pack everything up and get on the bus and take a bus right back. So I just had bad memories at Toledo, and I could see that happening again this year. Hopefully no lightning delay for anybody, but I have a loss here.
Yeah. John, I got a loss here as well. And I think this is another one, like you said, other than Auburn, maybe UConn. I feel like we could maybe play them tough. It's still early in the year. Toledo could get ugly. And I think this is week 13 we're talking about, week 13 Toledo. Week 12 Eastern Michigan. There's going to be a big game for Kyle Kelly. Mark it in the books.
Okay,
week
bookmark
13.
it.
Bookmark it. Big game for Kyle Kelly, week 12. Now, week 13, Toledo. Where did Kyle Kelly go and visit when he was in the transfer portal? Toledo.
That would be Toledo.
This could be, and it's a loss, guys. It's a loss. But this could be the Kyle Kelly statement game here. Basically saying, like, he could have had me, and now look. But I'm not confident in that, so I'm going to mark it down as a loss. Toledo is they're the kings of the MAC. Them and Miami of Ohio, we have a special beef, a special hatred for Miami of Ohio. And so we kind of, peck at each other to the point where we'll have a chance to maybe pull that out. But Toledo, I don't think so. That's a loss. That's a loss.
Okay. Yeah, and so Miami of Ohio, we can kind of jump into them now. Miami of Ohio right now, with the games we play against them, it feels like when I was in college when we were playing Northern Illinois and we just could never beat them, like no matter what. They'd usually be pretty close, but we could never beat them. And it seems that way right now with Miami of Ohio. It seems like every year we play them close. The COVID year, it's the only game we lost. Was it 2 or 3 years ago? We needed to beat them like at home the last week of the year to go to a bowl. We lost that. We lost a close one last year on election night. It seems like we always lose close to these guys. They're a very good team. I know they had a big time quarterback transfer in. He used to be the quarterback at Toledo, and then he went to Baylor, I believe, and now he's coming to Miami of Ohio. So they're a loaded team for sure. I would like to think this game is close, and I would like to think that Coach U is going to change this rivalry up, and start winning some games. It's like Mike New could beat Northern Illinois, but can never beat Miami of Ohio. So if Coach U could beat Miami of Ohio and then doesn't have to play Northern Illinois, that would be awesome. But I think this is going to be a loss for this year, and I'm hoping that next season he gets a bad taste in his mouth from losing to them and says, I'm not doing it anymore, and returns the Redbird rivalry trophy back to Muncie. So I have this game as a loss as well.
Yeah, definitely. DeQuan Finn is the quarterback that was Toledo's quarterback, went to Baylor, and now he's at Miami of Ohio. Somehow, and I don't know how Miami of Ohio always does it, but they have a dog at quarterback consistently. I feel like that we had 5 or 6 years of Brett Gabbert, and then to just go straight from that to DeQuan Finn is incredible. And I think maybe Toledo might have a better roster than them year to year. It is definitely pretty close. And I'd say generally Miami of Ohio has the best quarterback in the league. So in the conference. So this is definitely a loss as well.
Okay. So as I'm looking at where we stand, Colin, you have us going to a bowl game this year. You have us at 6-6. I think that's a little bullish, but I hope you're right. I have us at 5-7. That to me seems like a plausible way throughout this season. You improve on the wins from last year, and you really get the ball rolling in the right direction for Coach Yurimovich. And so then in year 2, you come off 5-7, and you can say, hey, this is our year to really go to a bowl game. You know, I love going to the big non-conference games, and you're going to have to beat good teams like this. And so it's kind of balanced where we have 2 Power 5s, FCS, and then like basically another G5 team on here. So I like that. But those 2, Power 5 ones are always going to be tough. You're always going to put yourself in a hole when you play 2 of those games. So I'm not telling them to not play those games because, they probably need the money. And for some reason, if we ever beat one of them, like we beat a Purdue or like we used to beat Indiana, those are the best. So it just is kind of always going to be tough when you do that. And then you're, comparable G5 team that you're playing on the road, you play on the road this year. So I have us at 5-7 this year. So I have us just missing out on a bowl game, but I have us in a position at 5-5 after the Eastern Michigan game to where they potentially could steal one of those 2 games at the end of the year. That's kind of where I'm thinking. And maybe I have too. And maybe I have too much. Maybe I have too much of Mike New syndrome still, where I just know when we get into a position where we have a chance to get something done, we just won't do it. So that's not probably fair to Coach U, but that's just where my head's at still. Losing these close games, losing these games that we have to win to go to bowl games. So maybe that's not fair, but I have to be proven wrong at this point.
Another thing to consider too, this is the MAC. So these last 4 games, it'll be November to late December. Miami of Ohio is almost December. It'll be late November to December. My point in saying that is inclement weather is a possibility. We get one of these snow flurry games. We get a real rainy mud bowl. Anything is possible. And I know I have predicted us to go 6-6. I'm understanding that's bullish and a bit outlandish, especially from what we experienced last year. But I want people to see what I've picked and use that as a guide. Because just like last year, I had us pick 6-6. Whether we won 3 or 4, I forget exactly. We went through it, but those games we lost, they were very close that I picked. Mm-hmm. So I think in the same way, if we lose to Western Michigan this year, look for it to be another 3-point loss. If we lose to someone like EMU, it's going to be close. So yeah, I'm not saying 100% we're going to go 6-6. Don't put your bank account all on us making a bowl game because 5-7, an improvement with 5-7. Think about what Coach U is doing now. He's taking our backup quarterback from last year, installing the offense for him after losing a ton of playmakers. And if we go 5-7, that's a huge win. That's a huge win. So no pressure. 6-6 would be incredible, would be amazing. But I could see 5-7, 4-8. I'd understand that.
Yeah. I guess one other note on the schedule too, you would probably assume that Toledo and Miami of Ohio specifically are going to be pretty good and probably be in contention to go to the MAC title game, I would think. If for some reason one of those teams has a really good year and has their berth in the MAC title game locked up already, who's to say they don't rest a couple starters or something along those lines, to heal people up right before that championship game. Just assuming that one of those two teams could be in that. So it could be a spot to steal, but who knows? It's
kind of
March.
possible. You got to,
like I said, it's March, and we have a long time before we even get to week 1.
yeah, you got to consider everything, because I'm sure when teams like Ohio of last year were looking at their schedule and they were picking their win-loss, would they have known that Mike New was going to get fired and the team was just basically going to throw up its hands and say, you know what, season's done. Our last 2 games don't matter. Because that's how they really played, unfortunately. But yeah, so any of that little, you see a really bad team at the end of the year, you're like, man, maybe they're so bad the coach gets fired and then they don't give a crap anymore. Or you see a really good team and you're like, maybe they'll rest them. So maybe. I'd love to see it.
Yeah. Okay, you got anything else on the I did have one criticism here, if I may. I know you this is more your bag of getting on Ball State about stuff, but I want to get on them about something here from the creative department of Ball State. You see this a lot in the NFL, and now it's kind of trickling down to college football with the schedule releases. In the NFL, it's a big thing now. The schedule release will come out. They make it a big day, and they'll have a cool video. Like, you'll kind of compete with people to have the most creative, fun video, and people kind of always get into who had the best one. And I've seen a lot of it in college football now as well, especially in the MAC. We had nothing of that from Ball State. We had a picture that dropped, which is a great graphic. We had no cool video, creative video. I know like Buffalo did like a fun thing where they did trivia with Coach Limbo and had him unknowingly do the schedule, and Bowling Green had something. We had nothing at all. It's kind of par for the course, but Ball State, just watch what other people are doing and do something. Don't do nothing, just do something. So that's my one little criticism from the schedule release.
Yeah, and I don't want to nail them too hard because, good Lord, don't get me started. But they did do something good that I will give a little shout out to. They remodeled the ballstatesports.com website.
Okay,
if you go on there and you check out, it looks super clean, and they finally got some stuff we can buy with the Dancing Charlie. And I think they're listening to us, John, because I remember our holiday wish list where we wrote out a lot of the things that we wanted to see changed. I'm noticing them taking some of them into account. And even just a little bit of change, if we can make a little bit of change, or we can bring something to light, or we say, hey, this isn't right, and enough people agree with us, that's the power we have with Ball State of the Union. And I think just knowing that they're listening, knowing that they're watching, knowing that they're following, they see the clips, and they know we're not here to hate for no reason. We want to see us do well. We love Ball State. But yeah, let's get some more content. I just saw actually a pod with Mick and Jeff where Jeff was talking about, yeah, we have a commitment to making more content. And actually I replied to the link that was on Twitter and was like, you know what, I'm noticing some things, and you guys are doing a good job putting more content out there and making it a priority. But yeah, when something like the schedule happens, how hard is it to get somebody in a Charlie Cardinal outfit going around doing funny stuff? I mean, it shouldn't be that hard. It's not complicated. This is stuff we should be thinking about. Another thing that we need to put on their mind right now is when the new college football 26 comes out. I want them to do more than they did last year. And even last year, I think they did some good things. I mean, they had people sitting outside on a couch playing Charlie Cardinal and in the game and whatnot, but that's not enough. Like, we need to promote, because UMass, Buffalo, Bowling Green, they're putting some pretty good content out there, and that's supposed to be their thing. Is the like really nice state of the art sports link, this and that. If the students can't do it, pay somebody that has the free time and the skill to do it. If the students can't do it, find someone who can.
I got a free idea for if anybody from Ball State is listening right now. I got a free idea for you for the college football 2026. When that game comes out, you need to take maybe 3 of who you think are Ball State's biggest players this year. Maybe one guy on offense, maybe Kyle Kelly, one guy on defense, and one other person. Could be Coach Urinovich, could be anybody. and make a custom graphic that looks like the cover of the game, but have our guys on it and put that graphic out there. I think it'd be cool. If you really want to get extra creative, make it printable so people buy a physical copy of the game. They can change it out and put the Ball State one in there. I think that would be fun. Do that. But we're getting off into a tangent here.
One more thing. Hold on, just one more thing, John, about that college football 26. Make sure what you give them is up to date. I do not want to see the backup quarterback starting for 6 months while I'm trying to play this game until they update it. We had Caden Samanza as the title screen. If you said my favorite team is Ball State, Caden Samanza is on the title screen. When I press play now and then go to play a game, why was Kyle Kelly then starting? I love Kyle Kelly, don't get me wrong, but don't do this bait and switch sort of deal. Make sure what we give them is the right content so they can use the right content. The depth chart's not all messed up because I'm going through having to get players out of free safety and put in put in the right players and stuff like that. Make sure it's right. Make sure they have Charlie Cardinal so I don't have to wear this on my helmet all the time, even though that's not up to date. I just want to see a big focus there because that's such a huge spotlight for us. We're one of 136, and we don't get a lot of spotlight. We don't get anything Notre Dame gets. We don't get anything like that, like Alabama. This is the one time to be on a level playing field to say, hey, come look at Ball State, try out Ball State, and let's just make the most of this opportunity.
Also, if anyone's listening, whoever's listening to this, and you play college football 25 right now or play college football 26, I want to start something where we will include it on the show. If you send me a screenshot of you winning the national championship as Ball State, we will feature you on the show. You can send it anytime. So send that in. If you won the national title, send me a picture and I'll put it in the next show. So that can be anybody out there because, a lot of people like to play as, the smaller schools and build them up. So there's probably a lot of people out there nationally, not just Ball State fans who are playing as Ball State. So I think that about covers everything here, Colin. You got anything else for us?
Yeah. I just want to let the viewers know what we have coming up right now. We are making some merch, hopefully to have a union club that everybody can be in. I'll explain more when it's coming. It's all designed. Right now, I'm just waiting for them to send me my own hoodies. So when we're here, I can kind of show it off, flash it to you. I'll have hats available, all that stuff. Proceeds, any money that I make on it will go to possibly making an NIL fund, a collective. We're looking to partner with other people. Actually, I've met some people in South Bend that are Ball State alums that are interested in this as well. So we've got a lot coming on that avenue. That won't be until our next pod. One more thing, April 12th, spring game. I'm going down there. I'm going down there with a camera and with a buddy who's done this before, who covered Notre Dame football actually for a local news channel. We're going to go down there and we're going to give it the best shot we can. We're going to get the best coverage we can for Ball State football talk, for Ball State of the Union. I'm going to have a ton of information coming back. I don't know how much access they'll give me. I have spoken with the assistant AD about possibly going down there. It seemed kind of like it would be, that they would work with me. But even if they don't work with me, it's open to the public. I'm going to go down there with the camera. I'm going to grab some binoculars. I'll be down there looking, checking everything out. Hopefully we get a scrimmage. I'll keep everybody posted.
Perfect. I love that. Okay. Well, this has been great. Hopefully we don't look like fools, 9-10 months from now with these predictions. Hopefully we're spot on. Hopefully you're spot on. So we go to a bowl game. That would be awesome. But
until next fans, they will let us hear it. If we go 0-12 and I just talked crap about Kent State, can't happen.
Yeah, it can't happen. So, all right. Until next time, everybody out there, chirp, chirp, and we'll see you around soon.